Alrighty, great to see everyone. As always, welcome to another session of our summer speaker series. My name is Shannon Farrar. I manage the campus recruiting team and campus relations team. Apologies for a little bit of the late start, so we will be getting started a little bit sooner. But I do want to hand it off to my colleague, Mary Hull, to introduce ourselves. We're going to do a quick couple of polls just to get some background information, and then we'll get started shortly. Mary, go ahead and take it away.
Hello, everyone. Like Shannon said, my name is Mary Hull. I'm one of the campus recruiters here in Denver. If you haven't joined one of our speaker series yet, this is the Transamerica Summer Speaker Series. It's been almost a weekly event. Initially, we started this in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Originally, we just kind of invited anybody who had had an internship canceled as a way to still stay connected and see what's going on with the corporate kind of scene there. We've since opened it up to all kinds of interns and students from across the nation. So that's been really fun. So today is our technology series. We'll be hearing from Dave and Jaime, who I saw joined. And so I think we will start it off here with some polls. The first one regarding the phone system that you're using.
And just a quick reminder, if you do have your cameras, we'd love to see your faces. We'd love to engage. This is going to be a lot of question and answers. In addition to questions that were pre-submitted, please feel free to ask questions either in the chat or on the camera once we get to that section. Know that you can mute yourself or, of course, use the chat feature, but we'd love to see and hear each of you rather than our voices, which many of you have heard several times over.
Oh, awesome. So we've got these poll results here. It's usually, I feel like, what I expect. I don't even know what other would be. All I know is iOS and Android. And then we've got a second poll. If you want to pop that up, Jacinta. This is regarding your cloud platform. Thank you, Jacinta. Again, basically what I usually anticipate. But Dave and Jaime can let me know if there's any outliers there.
That seems like a trick question to me. Yeah, no, that's good. That's a great response.
Awesome. And then we do have one final poll just to see how many of you are returning, like if you've been to a speaker series before or if this is your first time. Oh, great. So we have some newcomers. Well, that is very exciting. Welcome, everyone. So I will jump right into introductions. Quick reminder, all of these meetings have been recorded. So we'll be sending that out later so you can always reference that. But I will start off the introductions. I can have this pulled up here. Or I guess we'll go through the agenda first. So we'll just go through the welcome and introductions, and then we'll talk a little bit about technology at Transamerica. We'll have a Q&A and discussion there. We've got some excellent questions already submitted, and then we'll wrap it up at the end. So first up, we've got David Beaudoin. I won't try to pronounce that in the French correct pronunciation. But David graduated from Rutgers University with a bachelor in electrical engineering and an MBA from Marist College. He joined Transamerica in 2007, bringing enterprise data management experience from the financial services and technology industries. Currently, he's the head of data services, where he oversees Transamerica's enterprise data management capabilities, including data engineering, database administration, and data integration, as well as operational support of Transamerica's enterprise data assets. He's held roles in many areas of information technology, bringing a broad view of how technology enables business outcomes through the strategic use of data. Throughout his career, David has been instrumental in the delivery of several enterprise data solutions, including architecture, development, and collaboration with business stakeholders to achieve successful implementation. And there is a photo of David as well. Next, we've got Jaime Bentley. She graduated from Indian Hills Community College with her associates in computer science. She joined Transamerica in 2002, bringing more than 17 years of financial industry experience. As the Director of Development and Governance, Jaime drives process simplification and employee engagement across technology while continuously partnering with business groups throughout Transamerica to maintain connectivity. She is a highly motivated, hands-on senior leader who's results-driven. She has experience delivering creative business solutions across the entire technology organization. She's built a substantial network of trusted relationships by solving business problems and improving Transamerica's processes. A few recent successes include establishing the Transamerica University Network, standing up the Architecture Review Board, and creating a strong internship program focused on IT growth. Before joining Transamerica, she had led the accounts receivable and revenue reporting teams. So I will go ahead and pass it over. Jaime, if you would like to go first, we can talk about development and governance.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mary. There are a lot of things that we have going on in technology, and some of the things that the group I am a part of have responsibility for is kind of like connecting everything or keeping things tied together. We have a lot of regulations in our industry that kind of, help govern and rule what we have the ability to do, what we need to be able to standardize, and how we handle some of our processing. So a large part of what we do is keeping things connected from our software development lifecycle. So, how the teams, as they come through from a project perspective, drive from the start of a project to the end of a project. We want to be able to trace that and track that. And so having that connectivity is one of the biggest things that we need to do as an industry leader, and also as a technology department within Transamerica, to keep us consistent and to have some accountability in ensuring that we're secure and making sure that we're putting the best products out that we can, and that they've been tested and we have the right structure in place to release those. So that's one of the biggest things that we do. In addition to that, in order to support our technology platform, we're always looking at new software, always evaluating, the new technology that exists out there. And so we have a lot of processes around the procurement process, which is essentially like how we bring software into our organization. And then that connects into our architecture review board. And our architecture review board really has governance over making decisions about the software that is being evaluated to determine if it's something we can or should bring into our infrastructure. Always looking at new ideas. There's so much new technology that continues to evolve. So this is something that is ongoing and something that we are constantly working through. Probably on a weekly basis, we see about 3 to 5 new technology software applications being evaluated and brought forward to the architecture review board. And really what that is, it's from any application that we have within Transamerica. whether it's, from our billing department, whether it's something in our services, whether it's connected to our data. So much of this is all tied together. And so for our environment to be successful, and to continue to grow and to continue to deliver for our customers, what we're ultimately looking for is a great customer experience. Evolving our software is something that we're pretty passionate about, and it's something that we need to continue to do in order to stay really relevant in our industry. So that's another area, a focus that we have. In addition to that, from a project perspective, we need to be able to showcase, what it is that's being requested by our business teams, how, we're implementing that, and then how ultimately we're doing the quality checks to ensure that our data is safe, that our applications are secure. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard about information security, and that's a pretty significant piece of what we focus on. So there's a lot of rules and regulations that keep us connected. But the good thing about that is, and that keeps our data secure and structured so that our customers trust us. And ultimately, we have a process for the customers that feels really good when they come to our websites. They have confidence that Transamerica is taking good care of them, that their data is in safe standings with us, and that we are, offering products to them that, are great products and that we all should, want to own and have a piece of. And then in addition to that, really the way we connect all of this is through our people. So the biggest thing that we have, or the best thing that we have, is our people. So the folks that work at Transamerica, we want to continue to grow them. We want their knowledge to be strong. We want them to have opportunities to extend their learning. To me, one of the biggest things that we can do is continue to grow. As you guys probably see too, technology is constantly changing. So if you are really strong in one specific technology, that's a great thing. But a bigger thing is to continue to want to be growing your knowledge and be a lifelong learner. Just by doing that, you're always evolving as things go forward. And that's something that we really are focused on, is providing opportunities, providing tools to continue that learning. Whether it's through, town hall sessions where we're talking about new products that are being released or new technology that we're implementing, whether it's, yourself learning a new tool or a new technology skill. Those are the kind of things that we're really focused on from an employee development perspective. And ultimately that ties back to, who we want to be as a technology organization. And so we have continued to grow and evolve from our internship program as well. We're bringing in excellent top talent into Transamerica. That program has, a couple years ago, we had 5 interns that we brought in. Last year, we had 15 interns that we brought in. This year, we, of course, we're set up to bring in 30, which is a huge jump, basically doubling our internship staff for the summer. And then obviously a lot of other things out of our control happened. And so that program for us is really significant to continue to keep those connections strong through several different top colleges that we're working with, and also just to continue to grow that Transamerica technology brand. So who we are as a technology company, we of course are supporting Transamerica, but we also want to be known for the technology that we're developing. In the great opportunities that we have here at Transamerica to offer a career path for folks who are very interested in the technology industry. So, Mary, maybe I'll pause there, and I don't know if you want to take questions now, or if there's if there are questions out there, or there's other areas that I can share, but. That's a high level of what our team is kind of currently doing and what we're involved in.
No, that's great. I do have a pre-submitted question that I'll actually direct to you.
Okay.
Which technologies and skills should we focus on if we have a background in business and sales, and which would help land a job in the tech sector?
I feel kind of like Dave said before, it feels like a little bit of a trick question. The answer probably today is different than it will be, 3 months from now. I would say, kind of back to the point I made a little bit ago, continuing to be able to learn and grow in the technologies is really key. On the business side, we still use a lot of the Microsoft products. We also, have a lot of our tooling is geared around like the Teams and the Office 365 suite, which is something we're really standing up right now. I think actually I just read next Monday, we're officially going to shut Skype down. So for those of you who have heard of that technology is going to be turned off, and we're officially going to be using the Office 365 suite. So those, from a business standpoint, they're global. Pretty much everybody in most every industry is using those. So I think it's really important to have that background. Any tooling where you can that has connection to other applications. So today, like within Transamerica, we use products called Jira, Confluence. Those are like solutions where you can, key in user stories, where you can assign defects, where you can track approvals. On the business side, I would say those are some of the most significant tools that we're using today. But like I said, I think this is the biggest thing you can do for yourself, is to continue to want to grow and evolve, because I probably can't tell you, and I probably don't even want to count in my head the number of tools that we have been through since I started working in the industry. So I think just being willing to continue to learn and grow is the most important thing you can do for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before I get into too many other pre-submitted questions, I will turn it over to Dave. You can go through your background or any additional input, and then we can do more Q&A.
Okay. So good afternoon, everybody. If you're on the East Coast, I'm in New York. So my name is Dave Beaudoin, and so I run the data services team for one of the divisions now at Transamerica. I've been here about 14 years, and I've had a few different roles, all generally related to the usage and management of data, in to some respect. So before that, so I could go on and on about history and kind of the path I took to get here. Maybe we'll get into that if the questions take us there. I've worked at IBM for a while, and I worked on Wall Street at another big financial services shop in the 90s. If anybody remembers the 90s, I barely do. So in my role today, we kind of started out the presentation talking about digital data and cloud. That's kind of a little bit of an internal mantra that we use to focus where we are going as a technology organization, within this larger financial services company called Transamerica. Obviously, data being, in my opinion, kind of the pivotal component of the digital data cloud story. But if you think about it, it really makes sense, and I'll kind of unpack this a little bit. But I'm guessing for most of you, you've grown up in a largely digital world, right? Smartphones and internet and mobile apps. It's just kind of second nature now. And some of us can remember days when those things didn't exist. And I remember in the 90s carrying around my my mobile phone that was like a 5-pound brick, and could fit in my briefcase back when people actually carried briefcases. Imagine that. So yeah, I've seen a lot in the technology space. So my current role here, so similar to Jaime, who I've worked with together on a bunch of things here at Transamerica. So it's really the management of data, and that takes on a few different forms, right? So if you think about what is an organization's most strategic asset, right? So when you ask that question, a lot of people will say, their people. All right, that's a common answer, right? That's actually a common, even sort of senior management answer, because everybody wants to know that their people, their employees, are valued, and the organization certainly wouldn't exist without them. Other people say, capital, or like, what's the funding that people use to either keep the lights on, keep the organization running, or to invest in new services, product features that they're going to bring to market for their customers. I'm a little bit biased. My answer to that question is always, it's the data, right? Because you can't support any of those things, meaning you can't support any capital investment in new products or services, nor can you support, your hopefully very innovative and creative and hardworking workforce, without having that data. So these days, the data is really kind of everything, and all the companies that kind of grown up in this internet age that are based largely on sifting data to provide their services, are a testament to that. So my team is really about managing the data, making sure it is highly available, making sure that our systems scale as more data is managed, making sure things are fast, making sure things are secure, as Jamie noted. I would guess, for those of you who are coming from the computer science kind of math engineering background, if you haven't yet, you will, as you get into the workforce, realize that it's all about the data. So I'll give you a really kind of good common example these days. Being a data scientist, or kind of doing somebody who does work with data analytics, is sort of all the rage, right? It's like a really hot skill set. If that's kind of part of your coursework, or you have the opportunity to do any kind of courses in business analytics or anything related to data science, machine learning, I highly encourage people to do that. Even if it's not your kind of key responsibility from a career perspective, it's a really good background to have, because it's just it's going to be part of really every service or product going forward. And everybody uses Amazon, everybody uses Netflix, and those things are basically largely based on the technology foundations provided by things in that data science domain. So, but my example is, today, largely, if you talk to somebody who's a data scientist and you ask them, what do you spend most of your time on? It's actually not on doing data science work, meaning it's not on kind of doing cool comp sci math statistics type work to derive the next greatest insight on how to market to customers, or to create the next blockbuster product. Usually what they'll say is, I spend most of my time gathering and preparing data, right? So what my team typically does is we try to make that time and the amount of effort required to arrive at those insights shorter by managing the data better, right? So making sure the data is cleaner, making sure it's more readily accessible, making sure that the people who need the data at a particular point in time, where if it takes them too long to get it, that time has passed and the decision is irrelevant, making sure that it's kind of decision is the data is timely and relevant. So largely, we call that field these days, to make ourselves sound cooler than we really are, we call ourselves data engineers. In the past, we would just be kind of like the MIS guys or database administrators. So it's funny how if you tack on engineer to the end of anything, right, it makes you sound cool, right? So I kind of feel like a little bit in the data space. I'm not complaining, by the way, because when I go to cocktail parties, what do you do? Oh, I'm a data engineer, right? Hey, it kind of sounds better than to be like, yeah, I'm the guy to carry boxes of magnetic tapes around or something. So let's see. I guess the other kind of things I want to talk about is, Transamerica is a financial services company. We offer a number of financial products, right, including insurance, annuities, retirement products. Across the board, our kind of our mission, if you will, is to help people achieve a lifetime of financial security. So this is something, if you're just starting out, I can tell you, when I was first starting out, this was not top of mind, but we try to help people prepare for a 30 to 40 year career, right, given their within their given profession, making sure that they're saving adequately for their retirement. And as a financial services organization, in some cases, if you're a big bank, like an investment bank, like a Goldman Sachs or a Citi or a JP Morgan, or at Capital One. You might be more like on the cutting edge of spending money on, kind of the next latest and greatest technology. That's few and far between. Most companies are actually similar to Transamerica in that we kind of let those other companies pave the way a little bit, potentially create a whole bunch of failures, and then figure out what's really going to work. So that's really where Transamerica is at this point. I'm not to say that Transamerica is not innovative in its own right. Certainly we are. But we are now in a phase of executing on what is kind of tried and true in the space of innovative technology. Meaning, we had that survey earlier about cloud hosting providers. And the answers were really directionally correct. I mean, the three biggest cloud hosting providers today are Amazon through Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud Platform, and Microsoft Azure. So Transamerica is the business unit that we work in is really focused on Amazon Web Services. A lot of companies that have started greenfield, like the Netflixes of the world, they never had what we call an on-premise technology platform, like most companies do. Like we literally have a physical data center in Cedar Rapids, quite big. We call it the bunker, if you can believe that, right? Because these things have to be secured and protective and highly available. But most companies are trying to move their estate of infrastructure technology to the cloud. All that data moving to the cloud to take advantage of cloud scale and not agility and longer term for cost optimization. So again, I would expect most of you starting out, you might live your entire career in the quote unquote cloud or whatever the next thing after cloud that we call it. So to that end, and just maybe a little bit of kind of advice to wrap this up, that survey was good. I would say if you take out, there's probably a bunch of takeaways here from our time today, but that's a good one. I'll tell you what I personally, no matter if it's a, math major, business major, stats major, comp sci major, I usually ask people that question when I'm talking to, either job applicants or, intern applicants or just at college job fairs. It's good to know, right? When you go into the quote unquote real world, like these are the kinds of things that like it's good to be conversational about. Not necessarily have to be hands-on, but conversational to know who those major cloud providers are, because chances are the systems and applications that you're going to be working on, in the next either right away or certainly in the next 5 to 10 years are going to be 100% cloud-based. I just another sort of quick thing. I'll just end this part up with. I try to give a little bit of advice, even when I'm kind of interviewing somebody, in that, should you choose either not to get or if you don't get an offer or choose not to accept it, I'll leave you with a little bit something to help you be more successful in the future. And this applies really to every major. So I know we got a bunch of different sort of people on the call. It probably is worth everybody's while to not only be familiar with those cloud hosting platforms, just kind of who they are, but there's so much free training available and opportunity to go take advantage of things like we had the survey about cloud and the survey about what kind of phone do you have. So it's sort of interesting, and that's usually about 2/3 Apple and the other third is Android. So I've had both myself, and it used to be much easier to create apps on the iOS platform than on the Android platform. I think that's changed a little bit, and it's pretty easy to do it anywhere now. I would suggest just one thing: if you show up at a job fair or a job interview and be like, "Hey, I took," you can tell them, "I took the time. It might be an hour, it could be a weekend, and I built a sample app and I installed it on my phone." Your phone becomes your resume. Be like, "Hey, look at this," and it doesn't really matter what the app does. I can just tell you, it doesn't have to be fancy. Hey, I built an app that goes out and kind of like hits the Netflix API and shows me like what was the most popular, 10 shows watched in the last 24 hours, or something like that. I can tell you, if you do something simple like that, that shows that you have a tiny little bit of sort of knowledge and comprehension of the like mobile tech, cloud tech, and kind of understand that, you will set yourself head and shoulders above the competition by doing something just as simple as that. I'm guessing that everybody, because of the fact that you're actually on this call, you're probably all very astute students with, kind of top aptitude and attitude, but something like that is a good thing to set yourselves apart. I'll just add to that also, I tell my folks who are literally on my team, like my employees, it's probably worth everybody's while to think about going out. And if you're heading into a technology field, to get cloud certified, and it really actually doesn't even matter which platform it's on, or what level of certification you've achieved. So for example, if you show up at a job interview or a job fair and said, I took the 20 hours to go out and get my basic Amazon cloud practitioner certification, whether you bring a screenshot or, not that I'm sure anybody would believe you've said that, but again, it's just another little thing. Doesn't take much. Anybody could do it, and it helps kind of set you apart a little bit. Okay, I know I could probably keep going on and on for the rest of the call, but I'll pause here. So just a little bit about the background, what I do. Really the last thing is, so we do a lot, but really what I do, I'm a professional meeting attender. That's really what my job is.
I love that. Well, I do have some questions from the audience on the cloud, so I'll just direct those right to you. I'll kind of try to wrap them all up into one. What do you think the future of cloud computing is? Is there one that's best for a financial company? What qualities would we look for in a cloud infrastructure?
Well, so we'll take that first. I'd say my simple answer to that is, and this is based on the experience that I've seen, existing organizations that have a large existing Microsoft footprint within their shop tend to leverage Microsoft Azure. It just makes sense, right? So not to go into too much technical mumbo jumbo, but that in my world, that would mean if you're an organization that uses a lot of Microsoft SQL Server for your database backend, uses a lot of Microsoft Visual Studio and .NET for your development platform, everybody kind of uses Microsoft Office. Well, not everybody, but a lot of kind of corporate organizations do. It would kind of make sense to go into Azure. Now, having said that, Transamerica has a huge Microsoft footprint. And like I said, we're moving into the Amazon space. Again, my experience here a little bit, and, I have a lot of colleagues that I've sort of grown up with over the years. My take on it is what tends to happen is folks such as yourself, right? So you get kind of new employees into the organization, interns, employees, out of college, whether it's undergrad or grad, they come in, they kind of know about this stuff a little bit, and they start pushing the envelope within an organization, be like, hey, we can do this in the cloud, we can do this in the cloud. And they start actually building things, whether it's proof of concepts or small applications, and it starts to take a foothold. And I think a lot of times people tend to, in that situation, gravitate more towards Amazon. I mean, arguably, they were kind of first out of the gate, and their technology, they really pushed kind of the training and the certification, and they've kind of attained a little bit of a sort of reputation as being the hacker's choice, if you will. And I would say, I have a 14-year-old son, and, I was actually surprised. Like when I grew up, Microsoft, if you've never heard this, was sort of known as the evil empire. You see the Microsoft written with the M and the $sign because, closed source, all about profit. Everybody hated Bill Gates. Bill Gates is a wonderful man. He's doing so much like philanthropically. He just got a bad rap, in my opinion, right? But so just because of that, right? People tend to gravitate towards Amazon. So my son is no different. He's like, oh, no, can't do Microsoft, evil empire. I'm a hacker, right? Everything on Amazon. So I think a lot of that sort of takes over for no rhyme or reason. Again, having said that we are kind of moving more towards an Amazon path, there are parts of the Transamerica organization that are heavily leveraging Azure. So, my team does tend to get involved and support both, and they're both excellent platforms. The shorter answer to the question is it depends on an organization's current infrastructure state and sort of the culture of their engineering organization that drives them in a particular direction.
Yeah, definitely. That makes sense. Well, I do have another question for you, Dave, from the audience. This one is from Bruno. I think he is still on the call. Just asking Dave to talk about the integration between legacy systems and the new systems. and what are some of the current challenges there?
That's a great question. Well, I tell you here, okay, here's the short answer. The short answer is that specific topic is going to keep me employed until I retire. All right.
Yeah.
So that's the short answer. All right. That's the $1 million question. So every organization is facing this question, including ourselves. I mean, and Jamie is well aware of this. Jamie is talking about all the software that kind of crosses through the architecture review board. I mean, in a lot of cases, that software is geared towards solving that problem as well, right? So it depends on a number of factors. It's not. It's going to be different for every firm to answer this. And like I said, like if you're a cutting edge, innovative firm who's got some sort of deep pockets and can kind of afford to spend a lot of money on a fail fast philosophy, you're going to go to a different direction than a company who has very tight control over their kind of investment spend and capital spend on those kinds of projects. But at the end of the day, everybody essentially at some point is probably going to land on, I have to get off of my current technology stack onto something, at a lower cost point, which again could be cloud or it could be colo, right? So cloud isn't the answer to everything, but I think it's unlikely that most people will stay where they are over the next 5 to 10 years. The biggest, well, a lot of on-prem technology, like to take the SQL Server example, right? If you're a Microsoft shop and you have a SQL Server backend, it's pretty straightforward to just take that whole environment and just stand it up in Microsoft Azure. It's kind of like for like, even though the cloud version of SQL Server is a little bit different, but obviously it's Microsoft. They make most things easy for you to do in that sense. If you're removing a Microsoft backend into the Amazon environment, that would still not be terrible. You can run SQL Server on a Microsoft Windows server in the Amazon environment. And in fact, we do some of that as well. But things that are not specifically cloud, easily cloud migratable, like if you have a mainframe or a mid-range backend environment, which I would say arguably every financial services organization does, every insurance company does, just because those are the types of systems that the companies like that ran on going back for the past 20, 30 years. So Transamerica has 3 mainframes, right? There is no cloud. This is arguable. If I said this to somebody from Amazon, they would disagree with me. But in my opinion, there is no mainframe equivalent in the cloud. If you want to move your mainframe-based or mid-range-based technology to the cloud, that is a very intense, long, and expensive migration. I think most companies would like to do it, but they just have to kind of culturally and organizationally be ready to make that sort of investment. And again, not to say that the mainframe is a wonderful environment. I've worked with it for years and years and years, highly stable. It's pretty expensive, but there used to be a saying, if you guys haven't heard this, nobody ever got fired for buying IBM products, right? That was kind of very popular in the 80s. It's a great kind of like insidious marketing campaign by IBM, right? So to get everybody to kind of adopt that sort of statement. Integrating legacy systems, so migrating to the environment, like any other large scale migration, it's just big and complicated. I think everybody's going to have roughly the same strategy and plan. And this is where third party consultants will make a lot of money because, what it comes down to is execution, right? You can go Google for the architecture of how to do this, right? You can Google for it, and in 5 minutes, you'll have probably the same plan that every other company on the planet is trying to do in terms of migration. What it comes down to is, do you have the right people to execute? That's where you guys come in, right? So like a company like Transamerica, obviously we are often, sort of reviewing, through the hiring process. We want to make sure we bring the right people with the right skills that are going to be future fit to bring us where we need to be in that digital data cloud sort of future state. And my opinion is that's really where the rubber meets the road. Like, do you have a cohesive team that has the right mix of skills that can work together to pull off, quite frankly, which is sort of a generic strategic plan that everybody's trying to do, but to pull it off successfully, that's in my opinion a recipe for success.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I don't know if you can see some questions coming in to the chat First from Tyrone. Amazon provides a lot of serverless services. How widely are these used in the industry?
Let's see. I'll give you a short answer, and then Jamie, I don't know if you have any input on kind of what the patterns within Transamerica that the enterprise teams provided. But I would say a lot, but that's a relatively new development. So for the past 3 to 5 years, again, companies like Transamerica who are kind of slowly now embracing and moving to the cloud. The first wave of moving to the cloud was not using kind of any serverless type components, but it was literally, using Docker or building, EC2 instances in Amazon, but actually just really using it more as an infrastructure as a service and kind of virtualizing your infrastructure environment, but less about kind of using serverless services to build really a, platform as a service to kind of like stand up everything as code, all the components of your application. But I think from the Transamerica perspective, because so Jamie and I work in that, I'm in kind of one of the business unit divisions that is a consumer of the services that like Jamie's sort of horizontal enterprise group provides. So let me see if Jamie has an opinion on what the direction is there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think exactly what you said, Dave. I mean, we're sort of fast follower is like a term that we hear people use often, especially in the financial industry. And I think part of the reason for that is because there's a couple factors. I think it is partly risk. And then the other one is speed. So even, to what Dave was mentioning a little bit ago, there's a lot that goes on that has to happen in a nightly cycle in a financial industry because of gain loss and all of these other factors. So there's a risk, that we have, control of people's very important financial assets. So we need to do what's right in this industry. And secondly, the speed. So some of these tools, as they're still evolving, we want to make sure, that the mainframe, it's steady, it's solid, it is very expensive, like Dave said. But at this point, as things are still evolving with some of this, those to me are the biggest factors that we evaluate when we're trying to make decisions on technology. We want to make sure that it has been tried and a lot of the kinks maybe that are in the initial phases have been worked out. But then secondly, I think the risk, weighing that risk factor is probably the next most critical thing that we're evaluating as a company when we're making decisions about, how fast we're moving on to some of these platforms.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it looks like we've got just over 10 minutes left. So I'll have Bhavya and Francis shout their questions out, and then I'm going to look through these pre-submitted questions.
So I was wondering what's the best way to keep up with like trending technologies and programming languages? Like, how do you know what's hot and what's likely to be hot in the future?
Well, so this might be a little bit of an unorthodox opinion on this, but here's what I would say. Again, this comes from, me kind of being involved in this kind of thing. Like, I like going to the kind of college job fairs and doing things like this, so I could kind of be in touch with what students coming out of school are actually learning. And so this is a good question, sort of insightful. My opinion on this would be like, one, this is like a super practical way to kind of see like what's really hot in the market right now. Check out websites like Leap Code, right? For example. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's pretty cool. This would be a website where prospective job applicants actually share, like brain dump, the questions that they received while applying to, mostly large scale internet style companies, like Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, some big banks actually, eBay, etc. Right? So the types of questions and the types of programming languages that those questions are answered in my opinion, is a great litmus test to tell you like what actually, in the quote unquote real world is popular to know today. My guess is you're still going to see out there, and they have a coding challenge kind of thing every week, or there's a lot of stuff on there you can do to keep up with what's happening in those really big tech companies. But the most popular ones out there are still Java. You'll see maybe not quite as much C++, but certainly other object-oriented language. You see a lot of Python. I would say those two are probably big. Some other functional languages like Scala or other things that you might not sort of expect. I think growing in popularity, although they're still a little bit more obscure within sort of corporate America. I know within my team, and I would say Transamerica in general, Java is still very popular, and like I said, Python is up and coming. We're seeing a lot more Python being deployed into the environment. In fact, we're seeing a lot of PySpark being deployed into the environment as well as a replacement for what we used to buy third-party tools for to do things like data integration. So, there's some really big, expensive tools out in the market you can use to kind of take data from a bunch of different systems, munge it together, and then kind of load it into another system or application. So what we used to buy expensive, I'll call mid-tier applications to do, we're now doing it in code using things like PySpark. So again, that's just my experience within Transamerica. But I think websites like those, where you see a lot of people coming out of those companies, or at least going through the interview process in those companies, is very insightful.
Yeah. I would add, we've seen a lot of great information come off of, and it comes out of the college programs. There are tons of hackathons that are happening. Companies are having hackathons. Colleges are sponsoring hackathons. There's a lot of great insight you can get by paying attention to some of that as well. It's usually the really new and emerging technologies that are being shared there, but they tend to take off quickly after something is successfully produced out of one of those, those hackathon events. So that's another great, path or option to be able to look at, what's trending.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Sorry. And then Francis also had a question regarding your view of Salesforce Financial Services Cloud, or Velocity, or Encino. Hopefully I'm pronouncing those right. They're both in the Salesforce ecosystems.
Well, and so I'm not intimately familiar with them, although we are a Salesforce customer. We have a lot of stuff out in Salesforce now in different parts of the environment. So what I'll say is this. I mean, in this question, my answer is really more, it's not Salesforce specific, although we're using an example. It's really geared more towards any other software as a service provider. At some point, companies have to make a decision of whether you're going to build or buy a particular capability, right? An organization's business architecture is built on capabilities. Like, what is the model of your business? So in the case of Transamerica, we create and sell and service products in the insurance and annuity and retirement space, right? So there's a set of capabilities that you need to have to support those. And it's some capabilities that you consider core, you might want to build, meaning you build the technology solution, you engineer it, you own it, it becomes a source of your competitive advantage and part of your value proposition. Other things that are maybe less strategic, or you just know that you're not as good at, or it would just be easier if you have a partner or a vendor to provide those, you might do that. So in the case, this would be for Salesforce Financial Services Cloud, that might be something that a company that, maybe that's not a core competency for them. So, they want to leverage a software as a service provider for that capability. A company like Transamerica, I don't think most large organizations want, as much as I say this, sometimes it happens, you don't want to be locked in to a particular third party such that, you couldn't reasonably, extricate yourself if you needed to for some reason, whether your business strategy is taking you in a different direction. It could be a cost play, so that's why you'll find a lot of companies that actually might have not one, but multiple, 2 or 3 providers for a similar capability, just to kind of, keep themselves open with options and being able to sort of play them off each other. So I don't have a negative view on it. I'm sure it's a great fit for some organizations. It really just kind of depends on, I think, where your core competency is and where you want to kind of spend your money either, building versus buying.
Absolutely. And then one of our last questions I'll direct right to Jamie. This was just a pre-submitted question. How hard is it for women in the tech field, and what advice would you have?
Oh, that's a good question. You know what? I think things have really evolved so much over the past probably even 10 years. There has been a lot of advancement in this area. The one thing I would say, to me, we're getting close to an equal playing field as far as this topic goes. Just continue for everyone on the call. Continue to learn and continue to grow your skills. No matter what you guys, what path you're headed down, there are always points where you can make decisions on turning one way or the other. And so to keep your options open, I think the best advice I could give is just to continue to learn, be flexible, want to grow your knowledge in any area that you can. And that is one thing I think it'll take you a long way no matter which path you head down. So that would be my advice for folks on the call.
Very good. Well, I think we've got time for one more question. If anybody from the audience has any question they've been sitting on, otherwise I can pull one more from the list.
It looks like Nick just asked a question about AI, so I can take that quick. So AI is kind of huge. It has a long way to go, right? But it is being used, to competitive gain, obviously today. So taking jobs away from the data side, I think AI is going to take jobs as we know it today from every field, right? It has a long way to go, like I said, but I think what's going to happen is as work becomes automated through the use of technologies like AI and creative usage of machine learning, it'll just open up other opportunities further in, if you will, sort of the value chain of that data, right? Yes. So, for example, like my comments earlier in the call, like the guy who was carrying the box of magnetic tapes around the data center to feed them from the storage room into the mainframe because it was needed to run a job. That job doesn't exist anymore because there is no magnetic tape because we got hard disk drives in solid state, right? So it's the same kind of thing. Yes, AI is going to change jobs. It's going to make some things obsolete. It's already doing that. However, it's going to open up opportunities like further down kind of the chain of how the data gets used and the insights gets applied. So that's just the reality of innovation and the movement of technology. You guys are kind of right on the cutting edge of that, right? So that's actually a super exciting time, to get in. Like, we thought it was really exciting when the internet was a big deal and everybody had AOL and they can go, you have mail and all that. I was like, wow, I'm so cool. I mean, I would love to be where you guys are today and just being like sort of looking ahead at all the just unbelievable things that are coming down the pipe. So yep, jobs are going to change, but you guys are in a wonderful position to kind of be prepared for the changes that technology is going to bring. And again, the fact that you guys are even on this call, just looking to hear about what folks like me and Jamie are doing kind of in the real world, just is a big testament to the fact that you're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you guys both very much. That was awesome. If you have any final words of advice or any final insight, I guess, and then I will wrap it up.
Yeah, I guess the one thing I would say, in addition to learning, is just keep being driven. Dave's point is valid. Just the fact that you guys are showing up here, wanting to take time, wanting to continue to learn and know more, and just have that knowledge is significant. But be hungry to go after the things you're interested in, and keep that drive.
Looks like Jamie, it looks like you froze. If you can still hear us, can you guys still hear me? That's funny. All I see is everybody's head nodding like this. All right. So, all right, Jamie, I don't know if you can hear me, but it looks like you're frozen up. So I'll just end with this. My quick advice would be, at some point in your careers, you're probably gonna have to make a decision about whether you will continue in kind of more of a technical, for those of you who are kind of on the technology side, more of a technical career path, or to get into management. So obviously, I was very hands-on technical for a long time, but I got into management at one point. So if you ever decide to go back to school to get an MBA, I might save you like $100,000. So here's the whole point of an MBA. It's to hire good people. That's basically it. That's the 4-year message out of business school.
Well, that is great advice. I love money.
There's obviously a not so nice corollary to that about the other side of it, but I'll let you guys figure that part out. But yeah, if you hire good people, you'll go a long way.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. We won't keep our speakers over time, but thank you guys very much for all of that. That was awesome. Oh, it looks like Jacinta is sharing. So you can stay in touch by emailing interninfo@transamerica.com. You can also obviously always go to our website. That's got some great information just on the company and what we're up to. Future sessions coming up next week. We've got a 2-part, so that's going to be on both Tuesday and Thursday. It's going to be sales. And then the following week is also a 2-part. On Tuesday and Thursday is going to be actuaries. And then we've got Educate, Empower, Enrich. That's the Research Institute. So if you are interested in data, that's going to be a great one to go to. And then our final wrap-up is going to be on August 18th. That is just the culture of our company, and then our Wealth and Health initiative. So that is what we have got coming up. If you guys have any other questions or any type of feedback, always reach out to us on LinkedIn or at that info email.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Mary. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Jamie. We truly appreciate your time, your advice, your insight. And to all the students who joined us today or those who are watching the recording, again, we really appreciate you coming to join us for this conversation. And if there's anything we can do to further support you in your education, please reach out to us. And again, just a big round of thanks to Dave and Jamie. Again, really wonderful to hear about your stories, hear about your insight to career paths, the different technologies, as well as languages. So again, thank you from all of us. That being said, I hope everyone has a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and we hope to see you next week for the sales.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.